What does October the 7th mean for you? It depends who you ask. The start of a nightmare or the continuation of one. Over the next 60 minutes we'll look back at that date, what's happened since and where we go from here, with Israel on the offensive, Gaza in rubble, the Palestinians still without a home and the Middle East on the edge of war. Joining me is my panel and the audience, Jamal Zahalka, former member of the Israeli Parliament, Ola Awad, President of the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, Munir Nuseibah, human rights lawyer here, and Rateeba, Natsheh, member of the National Authority in Jerusalem and political activist. Our audience comprises the great and the good, from librarians and former ambassadors to writers, producers, and last but not least, taxi drivers. We'll also take pre-recorded questions from you, the public. But we start with the first question at the beginning. What does October the 7th mean to you, Jamal Zahalka?
For a long time I thought that Gaza is a prison. And when I saw and heard what happened, I thought this is prison break. Second, I was upset because the Palestinian question was marginalized in the region and internationally, and it's breaking the silence and saying to the world that the Palestinians are here. Third, it was the collapse of the Israeli national security concept, which says that Israel have the best intelligence in the world and the best defense in the world, and it have deterrence on its neighbors. And everything collapsed on in front of my eyes.
Yeah, and we will come on to that. That feeling of vulnerability that Israel had a year ago that seems to have disappeared now. Ola?
Yeah, I fully agree with Dr. Jamal, what he mentioned. For me, it was a turning point in my life from different perspectives. It's not because it was breaking the silence, because we were expecting this. I was expecting this as a chief statistician of Palestine, because data was telling this, that Gaza was actually a temporary bomb that will explode in any time, in any moment, because of the horrible situation that the people of Gaza that they were going through, with high unemployment rate, high poverty rates, and actually the nature of the Palestinian in Gaza, in West Bank, in Palestine in general, it is a young society. So you're talking a potential that they are not taking this kind of potential. Especially we are also distinguished as Palestinians that we are educated people, we are educated young people. So this is from one perspective, but I actually, a person that I work not only in Palestine as a chief statistician, but I also work on the global level. I was working and I was believing in the work of human rights. I was really believing on the work of development, of the Sustainable Development Goals. I was actually one of the global leaders working on implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. But for me, after October 7th, I don't believe in that anymore. It's just a big lie.
Right,
it's just a big lie.
That's very interesting, and we'll pick up on that. Let's go to Munir Nuseibah, human rights lawyer. Munir?
October 7th shows that this so-called peace process isn't real, and that it is a huge failure, and that it has basically the equation of saying only that the parties should sit on a table and reach an agreement, while there is one very powerful party, Israel in this case, with full support from the Western world especially, but also other parts of the world. With complicity, this Israel has been conducting genocide, apartheid, war crimes and crimes against humanity prior to October 7th, and the international community basically told us, sit together and talk. And while this was the way the peace process has worked, the Palestinian national dignity was on a continuous basis being stepped on basically by Israel and by the rest of the world. So this is an important turning point indeed, in history. It shows that this method of only expecting Palestinians to wait and to watch the loss of their lands and the loss of their rights and lives as something that is destiny in a way, that this is not really the case. And it is a turning point in terms of the Israeli ethnic cleansing work in Palestine. They have really speeded up their afterwards, after October 7th, immediately after, speeded up their displacement of Palestinians. Their genocide has become unimaginable, actually, ununderstandable in any way in the current time of the history. So it is indeed a turning point, but it's also a positive, in some way, a positive turning point, that now the international justice system has started to take the Palestinian question from different angles much more seriously, and I think this will influence liberation.
Okay, so that's the silver lining then. Rateeba Natsheh, political activist, you were nodding along to a lot of that.
Actually, it's not just a breaking silence or just a turning point. We have a lot of turning points in our case, in our Palestinian case. But I think that this point send a light, a strong light to the world to make everything clear, the side of the Israeli plans and what they are planning. They make it very clear and loud, and everyone can hear it now in the world of these government people and the Zionist movement themselves. They are talking about their plans to the Palestinian, among the Palestinian people, and how they believe this conflict can be solved. And in the other side, it makes it very clear for the people what we want, what is our demands as Palestinian, and what we are seeking. We are seeking to have our independent state. We are seeking life, not death, but still we are facing death. So I think it's not just breaking the silence, but it sends a light that can show everyone the truth of these movement and these procedures that took a very long took very long time ago against us as Palestinians, and make it clear for everyone.
Okay, we're going to come up, by the way, we'll finish the discussion by looking at where we can find hope for a future for the Palestinian people. Let's go to our audience, though. Who would like to ask a question first, or what would you like to say? Is there anything that you've heard that you'd like to comment on?
I think we need to view this as a very serious turning point, because suddenly the Palestinians are delivering their message and they're able to fight back. And the message was clear from the first day, for the first few hours. I mean, Israel built a wall around Gaza that is impenetrable. Historically, nothing like this was built. And yet, with gliders and with motorcycles, Palestinian resistance was able to break through and go and actually access secret documentation from military stations inside Israel in the Gaza belt, and come back with it to Gaza. So this was, I think, a military operation. Unfortunately, the world refused to present it as such, especially the Western media. And it was Israel deterrence, which has, as a state, was frightening everybody who dares move and could act with impunity, and caused so much pain and used so much violence against Palestinians for decades, for generations. Suddenly, that big monster has limits, and Palestinians could win the day. I think it was a very, very important formula that we can't overlook.
Thank you, Hind Khoury there, former Palestinian ambassador. Would anyone else like to say something? If you could just say your name, please.
It's Ala Salaimeh from Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. I just want to ask all the people here, why we have to depend on international law and human rights while Israel ignore all the laws? And we see that during they occupied us as a Palestinian, and during the Gaza war, they break all the laws. So why we have to depend on this?
Okay. I'll tell you what, we'll just take that question, we'll answer that question, and then we'll go back to the audience. This is one for you, Munir, Nuseibah, human rights lawyer.
Yes.
Why does Israel ignore international law?
While international law is actually very clear in what it allows and what it does not allow, unfortunately, international law doesn't have an automatic enforcement mechanism. The enforcement of international law is dependent on individual states as well as states within international organizations taking an active decision of enforcing international law. For example, in the case of the genocide in the Gaza Strip, the International Court of Justice has indeed decided a number of measures in order to prevent the genocide from continuing in the Gaza Strip. Israel ignored these provisional measures ordered by the court, and then the United Nations Security Council did not really take any serious steps to punish Israel for that. What we are depending on right now is individual states as well as states within different international organizations making a movement of sanctions against Israel in order to enforce international law. And this takes a lot of political will by these individual states and international organizations to go for this. This has started. We have started witnessing sanctions against Israel, something that we haven't witnessed in our history. Has it stopped the genocide? Unfortunately not. It hasn't. However, I think this is a snowball that will continue. Of course, if we do the right things, it will continue running, and eventually it has the potential of making a very serious contribution to Palestine. But is international law alone, as an abstract text, going to liberate us from apartheid and from genocide and from occupation? No. The answer is no. I do teach international law, and I defend international law, but I also know that international law is very limited, and it does not have the capacity alone. However, it's a very important tool for justice.
You're saying it needs to be applied by the countries, essentially. It needs to be followed up on. And we should be clear as well, when we talk about breaking the law, you're referring to the International Court of Justice. That's different from the International Criminal Court, isn't it? Which might issue arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and the leaders of Hamas.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely. I don't think that the judges of the pre-trial chamber in the International Criminal Court have a lot of choice. The prosecutor of the court has submitted the evidence. They have opened up for discussions and submissions, amicus curiae submissions, by different contributors, states and others. According to the law, the court has jurisdiction over the territory of the state of Palestine, which includes the Gaza Strip. The prosecutor has certainly provided them with the evidence of extermination, as he argued in his request, of using starvation as a weapon of war, and all the other crimes that he has provided. I don't think that the judges have a lot of choice. Sooner or later, arrest warrants, in my opinion, will certainly be issued.
Jamal, former member of the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli Parliament, how significant would that be politically if international arrest warrants are issued for Benjamin Netanyahu? How significant would that be? Because although America doesn't recognise the ICC, other countries like the UK, I mean, if Benjamin Netanyahu was to visit the UK, technically they would have to arrest him on his arrival.
Of course, it will be put restrictions on both Netanyahu and Gallant, and they will not visit many countries in the world. First, second, they have the full American support, and maybe the British support also. Although Great Britain pulled back its reservations on the decision of the court, saying that it didn't, no objection of arresting.
The Turkish government.
And I think, but still, it's a huge step of delegitimization of the Israeli action, and it will push many countries in the world to take steps against Israel, many organizations in the world, And it's not an easy point for Israel. Israel decided lately to appeal to the court also. Israel boycotted the court. But they are afraid of another thing. That the real fear in Israel, which is the secret arrest orders, which the ICG can take against Israeli officials secretly. And when they visit another country, they don't know, and they could be arrested.
Yeah.
Genuine
question.
It could be done by the law. It could be done that you can secret orders of arrest.
But do you think the Israeli government cares?
Yeah.
Do you think the Israeli government
Yes,
cares?
they care.
They do care. You think?
Yes, they care.
Because publicly they're always, we don't care. UN's an anti-Semitic body, etc.
No. They care. They are trying. There is a debate in Israel whether to take steps to prevent these decisions in the international courts, both justice and criminal. And the Attorney General in Israel said that we should have an investigation committee, official investigation with judges. Israel is trying to many steps every day in the courts of Israel. There are decisions to protect Israel against saying that Israel is dealing with itself. Israel is not ignoring this issue. There are courts in Israel. There is law in Israel, and we can deal with this question. If there are violation of international law, we can care about them. There is no need for intervening of the international courts. They care very much. And I want to say to you, they are much more afraid than they seem to be.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Ola? a little bit. He gave such a long answer as well. Go on. If you please take the mic. It's okay.
Because actually, I don't see that on the ground that they care. Maybe they are a liar and they lying obviously.
There is no decision still now.
But I don't see that point of view that they really care about international law and how the international community see them.
Okay. All right. Let's move on then. We'll have to leave that there. Nadia Harhash, there. I see you've got the microphone right there, Nadia Harhash. Yeah, you wanted to say something, I think.
Even though I have something else in mind to say, but maybe responding to this, I would say that there is no difference between whatever the international community stands for and whatever Israel is standing for. They're working on the same harmony of ethical issues, that they see things differently, and I think this is exactly what October 7th did. There are new sets of virtues, morals, and we are defined as the other that is not European or supreme or Jewish or American or whatever. So there is this set of morals that apply to us only. So I think we should not even think about how the international community is regarding this or how they will act upon this. I do know for sure that since October 7th, Israel can no longer stand in the place of the victim. This whole idea of Jewish victimhood is no longer the case. From those who went through Holocaust to those who are doing genocide at this moment, I think that image of how the world looked at Jews and Israel for the last 70 years is no longer the same. And I think this is the change that is taking place. But allow me to ask another question, which is not how the international community is regarding us, what Israel is doing, because this is very clear. And what Israel is going to do, it's going also to be clear. But my question is that of an internal question of where are we Palestinians standing in this? Where were we before October 7th? And I do believe that we were under this misery or tragedy of being divided, And we are even more divided now after a year of October 7th. And this is the question that we should be asking ourselves, Palestinians. And I think from there we can start having our answers.
That's really interesting. So you're saying that the Palestinian people, they could do more for themselves. They could be more united. They're too divided. Because that's often been a criticism, or that's something that's been said about Benjamin Netanyahu, that he plays on that.
You know, this is the obvious.
Well, I think we Palestinians are weak. I mean, we're a very small people trying to fight for our life, and we've lost so much economically and etc. over the years and the decades. Now, Israel really feels it's above the law. And the plan, I mean, the objective of the Israelis is the expulsion of the Palestinians. I mean, they've been saying that very clearly for years now. And now was the moment where they could get rid of the Gaza people, and we see now the same is being applied in the West Bank.
Okay.
Israel is above the law, and it's acting above the law.
Okay.
It probably does care what the world says about it, because it has been used to be treated like the golden child of the world. And now this thing is changing. They will try to control it by lobbies, by controlling the media, by controlling political decisions, by trying to steer geopolitics in the world, if not only in the region. And that's what the Israeli government is trying to do, and that's what we have to face.
Okay.
I don't want to fall into the just blaming the Palestinians, really, because we have been facing very cruel policies of divide and rule. I mean, forever. And we see...
I am blaming.
It's all right.
No,
Yeah.
blaming, that's why I have to...
Yeah, you have to talk
Because
into
I
the
don't want to be part of a blame game, because taking responsibility is one thing and blaming is another.
Correct.
I am saying that we Palestinians should take responsibility on our role in this. And my question is, why don't we have Palestinian unity until this moment after 1 year of genocide in Palestine?
Okay.
This is my question.
Let's take that question. I just want to bring in Ahmed Shalodi, who's sitting at the back there. If we just pass the question to him. Ahmed, you're a taxi driver, and I know that taxi drivers all over the world, they always have opinions. What's your opinion on Palestinian unity?
As you know, and everybody know, in the Palestinian area, it's a very difficult life after the October 7. As you know, Jerusalem and Palestinian area, it's tourist area, and lot of Palestinian, now it's stopped working in the tourism, and we stop about everything. We work with the tourism, and we have a lot of problems for the...
It's been bad for the economy, is what you're saying.
Economy, yeah, because a lot of people, it's not working as before 7th of October.
Okay. All right. Okay. Actually, I want to come to you, Ola, on that, because you're a statistics person. How bad has October the 7th been for the economy and for the Palestinian economy?
Yeah, it's been deteriorating. For Palestine, we have a small economy that is very sensitive to any kind of fluctuations. And the Israeli aggression against Gaza put it in a worse condition, especially when we talk about external trade, because the Israeli occupation is controlling the borders. So although we have such a kind of limitation on exporting, but still it's been declining more and more. And the issue also that we are facing, the economy cycle with all the different activities. Palestine in general, it's an agriculture land. And the problem that the people who are actually owning the lands have so many restrictions on their lands, and they had more and more restrictions. So, for example, the agriculture sector has been also deteriorated. This is on the West Bank part, but for Gaza, everything has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Lands has been, totally destroyed, and it was actually well known that Gaza is poisoned now. So buildings, schools, agricultural lands. I mean, there was such a sharp decrease in the economy of Palestine after October 7th.
Yeah, and you mentioned land and property there. I know that's extremely sensitive. Well, all over Palestine, but particularly in the West Bank, and I want to come to that. Rateeba, you wanted to say something as well, and then we'll move on to Gaza.
Actually, yeah, I want to say several points. First of all, as we said that we have a lot of turning points in our struggle as Palestinian, and we use the international law as one of these methods of our struggle. It's not the only method that we use, and we know that we pay a lot of as a price for this struggle, and it's normal when you are struggling for your story, but it's good to have the truth to come out, and the people all over the world to hear the whole story, or the story from our point of view and the international law point of view. And I know we always talk about the unity, and that's the role of the Palestinian in their unity to face this occupation. In reality, we always have this much of a conflict inside Palestine and the Palestinian political regime. It's not new, and it's not between Fatah and Hamas, and it didn't started 17 years ago. It started from the first day of this Palestinian revolution. We have people with this decision and people with our program decision, and we all respect all these opinions, and we consider them as a part of the Palestinian struggle against the occupation. It doesn't mean that if I have different point of view or program, that means that I'm struggling out of the firm. And no, it's not true that after 1 year we are not united yet, because now while we are doing this panel, we have like a meeting between different Palestinian parties that they are trying to find out how we can manage ourselves in the second day of the war. So it's not about just showing that we are divided and whatever. We always have differences, and we accept these differences as Palestinian, and we know that these differences is one of the strength that we have as Palestinian, because it let us have several methods and ways of struggling, and not just one method or one way of struggling to keep this case and this conflict live.
You were answering. You were talking directly to Nadia there, Nadia.
No, just Nadia and Ala and all of them. It's not just.
Well, let's just let Nadia respond very quickly, because Nadia was raising the subject of Palestinian unity there.
Because
and then we'll let Nadia respond, and then we'll go to a question from Gaza. But just very quickly, Nadia.
I just want to make sure that we understand each other well. Being diverse, being different is one thing, being different factions is something that, of course, this is normal. We're talking about a unity that kind of killed us for the last 20 years. This is not a joke. This is not something out of difference of opinions. This is something out of a lack of rule of law that we're experiencing at this moment. Israel can only get us beyond whatever Israel is doing, from whatever it does, from genocide until whatever we want to call it. It is because of this state of Palestinian disunity that we live here. And this unity is not because you and I are different. This unity is because we do have a Palestinian Authority that does not stand for what Palestinians want. This is what I mean Palestinian unity in this sense. It's not about disagreements. If we should disagree, we should be diverse, we should have as many factions as possible, but we should have a Palestinian Authority that represents me and you, which we don't.
Okay.
And this is the problem that we're living in for the last 17 years.
Okay, interesting. And clearly there's a divergence of approach here as well, but we can agree to disagree. Nadia, thank you for that. Let's bring in the question from Gaza then.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Dalia Anwar Mushtaha. I'm an English teacher in Gaza Strip, and now I'm displaced in the western of a Nuseirat camp. 1 year has passed of this ugly war in Gaza Strip, and many questions come to my mind, and I wonder, as a mom, why are my kids deprived from their simple life? As a teacher, why are our Palestinian students deprived from their education? Why this war hasn't stopped yet? I need the whole world to answer my questions.
Let's start with Munir, because you're a professor at Al-Quds University. Why, education, and I think the Palestinian people have always prided themselves on being educated, but you heard from that teacher there, she feels it's clearly being used as a weapon.
Yes, indeed. I mean, Israel has conducted the genocide in a way that it also destroyed every single aspect of people's lives in Gaza, including schools. All of the universities were destroyed, as well as, of course, homes and shelters, and everything was destroyed in the Gaza Strip. The reason is that Israel has continued with the intention to conduct genocide and exterminate the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and to displace them out of their homes for good. This is the plan that Israel has actually implemented. The other reason for this is complicity, especially the United States of America. It's a state that has been very complicit with the Israeli action. It has continued, but not only. I mean, it's one of the countries, but there is also Germany. There is also Western Europe in general, to different levels. Not all of them, of course, with exceptions. However, the problem is that these countries have continued to give weapons to Israel, money to Israel, as well as supporting them with impunity to all the crimes that they have been doing. The United States has used the veto while genocide was ongoing, while the whole international system was reporting from Gaza not only deaths, but many other atrocities that nobody can accept. Despite all of that, the United States has used the veto to shelter Israel from accountability before the rest of the international community. So the problem is that despite the truth being known, very well known and very documented, very well documented, despite the intervention of the international justice system, the International Court of Justice, we still have a country that insists to continue violating and ignoring international law, because it got used to that over the past 7 decades, more than 7 decades, and because the rest of the world still continues to support that.
Jamal, if I was an American, if I was from the American government, I'd say we're the biggest donor to UNRWA, which supports a lot of the schools in Gaza. So it's not, we're not explicitly supporting Israel. We are trying to help the Palestinian people as well.
This is a joke, because United States is the reason why the war is continuing. Is the United States, why there is a genocide in Gaza? Because USA. This is the first. They have the same blame. Israel is using the same bombs and speaking that they do putting some millions to UNRWA. It's neglectable. It's not this. We want them to stop the war, and they don't let Israel stop the war. I think the war didn't stop because the weakness of the Arab world, because the weakness of the Muslim world, because they are not using their weight, and if they use weight, they can stop the war. And I think it's time.
So you say it is because of the weakness of the Arab world?
Yes, of course.
Right, just to clarify.
I think it's time to make a reconciliation. Turkey, Iran, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, the regional powers. We cannot wait for China to raise and be to balance the American influence in the region. We can't wait for Russia. We should produce a regional power based on very, very strong countries: Turkey, Iran, and Egypt and Saudi Arabia. These 4 countries can change all the balance in the region, and the United States then will come running to stop the war, because they understand the work of power. How can we explain to ourselves, the Muslim world and the Arab world, that South Africa is the leading country in the world against Israel? I have friends in South Africa, and some of them in the foreign ministry. They told me that we have a strategy to put Israel in the zone of apartheid states.
Just quickly, just talk us through the statistics on education in the Gaza.
Yeah. In Gaza, before October 7th, we had 3,200 schools, whether it's UNRWA schools, public schools, or private schools. We have around 226,000 kids in schools. When I talk about the population in Gaza, we have around 1,060,000 before October 7th were under 18 years old, which we mean that we have about half of the population in Gaza, they are under 18 years. So about 47% we're talking. And in general, we have about 65% under 30 years. So mainly, our population in Gaza, they are either in schools or in universities.
Right.
And we have, in the universities, we had 17 universities, which are mainly now, after October 7th, were either totally or partially destroyed.
Yeah. Let's go to our audience then. Does anyone have anything to say then about the kind of the situation in Gaza when it comes to schools?
Everything in Gaza has been destroyed. Schools, universities, hospitals, roads, infrastructure, what have you. We are facing the possibility of a third world war. Mm-hmm. The situation is so dramatic. All our lives are going to be destroyed. Already the Middle East, at least the Arab countries, have been partly destroyed. And we're looking for more destruction. And the question that should be asked, now we are at a crossroad. Are we going to allow, as you know, Arab countries, Muslim countries, people of conscience around the world, are we going to allow this war to break up? Or are we going to really work for peace? I think this is the question, because the information on what's going on in Gaza, the West Bank, the history of Palestine is very well known. What is going in the region and Israel's role is also very well known. But now we need to know what every one of us is doing, and that's what I hope to hear from the people on the panel.
Do you think it's well known around the world? Everyone? I mean, I know within this region,
no,
some people around the world.
But there is a lot of information, and it's important to get that information out, but that's not enough. Now it's about action. What do we do to stop a disaster that's on our doorstep?
Yeah.
I mean, haven't we heard enough of Israel's killing, bombarding, the big bully around the block? Anywhere in this Arab world, they can hit, bombard, kill people just as they like in total impunity. And what do I hear from the Western powers? Even lately, as they hit Lebanon, Israel has the right to defend itself. I am 70 years old. That's all I heard over my lifetime. And I think it's enough of that, because it's not that we are angry and our life is destroyed. I think the West is completely discredited. Don't leaders hear themselves? I think this is the question that should be answered. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to pick up on that, Rateeba?
Yeah. Actually, yes, I want to say that Israel is dividing itself not from the military action from the Palestinian, but from the Palestinian future. So they target over 135 university teachers. They target over 17,000 child in Gaza Strip, and they still targeting schools, mines, and a lot of infrastructure in Palestine. So they are not defining themselves from military action, but from the Palestinian future that it's built on beyond the next generation in Palestine, and they want to destroy this generation and the resources of this generation once and forever. So when we are talking about our conflict, maybe there's three main points that Israeli government and Zionists want to end it one and forever in this war. I think one of it is the UNRWA, and they started before the 7th of October 1 year ago to dry the funds of the UNRWA. And you mentioned maybe the United States as one of the big funders of the UNRWA, and they started to make regulation in these funding before the 7th of October. So they are fighting the refugee camps in the West Bank as well. And when we mention Gaza Strip, we are talking about 75% of the population in Gaza that they are refugee. So ending the conflict or the case of a Palestinian refugee means ending the UNRWA as a witness for this case, international witness of this case, the refugee case, and ending the refugee camps in Gaza Strip, and West Bank, and now they started in Lebanon as we are talking now. 3 days ago they started to target refugee camps in Lebanon and Syria as well. So they have one of the main issues in the Palestinian conflict with Israel is the refugee conflict. And to mention that because they are very afraid from the population balance as well. So they want to kill as much as they could from these Palestinians.
Okay, Rateeba, thank you. Munir, I'm going to get you to respond to our next question, which comes from Gaza.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Mahmoud Ayman Abu Al-Amrain, a Palestinian doctor living in Nuseibah camp, and I am now working here in Al-Aqsa Martyr Hospital in the emergency department of Al-Aqsa Martyr Hospital. After 1 year of genocide and treated a lot of patients here in Al-Aqsa Martyr Hospital, we want to ask the world a question. What are you waiting? What are you waiting for? We are dying here. We don't have any equipment to treat patients here, or the environment that we can treat the patients. So we want to ask you one question. What are you waiting for?
Munir Nuseibah, human rights lawyer, what's the world waiting for?
I repeat this question. What are we waiting for? And I would actually, his message to the world is the message that we are all asking. What are you waiting for? And there is no good answer to this question. Yes, I know that there are some countries that have started working positively in a way, for example, sanctioning Israel. I know that, examples of that are Malaysia and Turkey and others that have started, effective sanctions against Israel. And this is very important. We have South Africa that has actually led the legal struggle against Israel and also sanctioned Israel. So there are good initiatives in the world. However, the rest of the world is either silent, watching Palestinians being slaughtered on a daily basis, despite knowing that they have an obligation to oppose that, or they are complicit, in a way that they are contributing to that. So his question is my question that I think all of us
There are many people actually that I've spoken to since I've been here who think that the focus is now shifted to the north of Israel and that Gaza's kind of being forgotten, and that many Palestinians feel Gaza's being forgotten about. There's no ceasefire deal's been done there. And also I've spoken to Israelis who say, the hostages that are in Gaza, they've also been forgotten about, as if Benjamin Netanyahu wants to pivot the focus away because he can't sort out what's happening there.
No, Benjamin Netanyahu does not want a ceasefire in Gaza. He has expressed this in several ways over the past few months. We are now witnessing similar crimes happening in Lebanon. And this is for us very important. We want the world to also notice Gaza and to notice the crimes that are taking part in Lebanon. Already more than 1 million persons have been displaced, 1.2 million persons have been displaced from their homes in Lebanon, and this escalation has not been there. Exactly. So we are seeing similar crimes by this apartheid regime that has been implemented here in the Gaza Strip, now being also implemented in the north, in the south of Lebanon. And I think that the two fights cannot be separated from each other. It's not a separate war. At the end of the day, the Lebanese resistance movement has clarified that they are doing this to stop, to get ceasefire in Gaza.
Yeah, but part of the problem is the Israelis separate the issues, don't they? The Israeli government does. Hang on. Yeah, I just want to bring in Hankhoi. Yeah.
I think we also have to acknowledge what the international community was able to achieve, and I was able to achieve. And here I'm referring mainly to the last decision of the General Assembly regarding the end of occupation within a year, which was based on the ICJ ruling that the occupation, Israel should end its occupation within a year and should compensate Palestinian, etc. I think this is a very important decision because countries have the obligation to respect international law, respect international humanitarian law, and implement the resolution according to, at least to the IHL. And I think this is very, very important to pursue. now that we are stuck in where we're stuck, but if the occupation is to end within a year, it would be an important achievement. But this is going to be a very difficult year, because so what state are we going to have? If at all, where, under what conditions, what borders, what sovereignty?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to be done this year in 12 months. And I only want to add that we Palestinians should not stick to the what's called two-state solution. Actually, we should always keep an alternative, because we try to negotiate for a two-state for a Palestinian state. Israel passed a resolution at their Knesset rejecting that proposition altogether. So we need to have the alternative, and the alternative is to live in one democratic state in what is our homeland anyhow. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Nadia.
I have to say that the question of what we're waiting for is also part of what echoes in my head. And yes, as unpopular as I became since October 7th, I think I am asking the question, what are we waiting for in terms of unity? If we are, if there is no PLO reform, serious one, I don't think we can go anywhere thinking of a two-state solution, any state solution, any access that we're hoping to build on regional or international level, as long as we Palestinians do not have a head that represents us. And I do wish that the PLO should be the house that puts us all Palestinians under the same umbrella.
Okay, we've kind of touched on unity already, but I appreciate you making the point. And Shalali, you wanted to say something before, I think.
After 7th of October, when attack the Israeli and Gaza after the war between the Hamas and the Israeli, everything is changed now for the economy and for tourism and for all my life here in this country.
Yeah, and tourism is a big part, isn't it, of the Palestinian economy?
Absolutely,
and,
because you're talking about a holy land here. I mean, it's the big...
I went to Nazareth and I saw that there is no one there.
Yeah.
There is no one there, and there are businesses dying.
Absolutely. It's everywhere. Even now, for example, since October last year until today, I mean, you in Bethlehem in particular, I mean, all the hotels now are empty.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were very much affected because, I mean, the religious tourism also is a crucial factor here for us.
48, 67, and 2023. Nothing what was before will continue. Things should be changed. I'm upset. We cannot deal about the Palestinian division like we dealt before the 7th of October. Things are changed, and because you are speaking about something so dramatic. 42,000 Palestinians were killed. More than 100 were injured. Gaza is destroyed. Israel is killing every day in the West Bank. Things, you cannot continue the same policy. You have to change. The reality is changing. Our minds is not changed. We are stuck before the 7th of October. And I think the Palestinian leadership should take a courage step toward unity.
Thank you to my panel, thank you to our audience, and thank you to you at home for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.